Okay, I'll get started. We do have some people in the hybrid online, and so for those of you in person, I will be standing in front of the camera. I'll do my best to be making eye contact at both, but it's a hybrid session, so I'll do my best to do both. For those of you that are participating in the online, you'll be using Huva, and my colleague Dan is here to respond to the Q&A and chat, so feel free to use that. If there are any questions in person, then I will be repeating them into the mic so that those that are in the hybrid will know what those questions are. So for those of you in person, you'll be able to hear me do that. Okay, getting started. Today we're going to be going over the Learning Upgrade app and how it accelerates ESL CASAS growth. You'll be able to hear on some videos from students and teachers that have used Learning Upgrade, as well as some best use cases, best practice, and how it has improved student performance. There we go. So there's a little bit of an outline. Start with an introduction. Really want to focus in on the student, school, teacher experience. Then we'll go over the app. So we do have one of you who have heard about Learning Upgrade from a colleague on the HSE side. Today the focus will be on our ESL track, but all of you will have access to all of the courses, so our English, math, our test prep, and then also our career readiness. Then we'll go over deployment models, and so that'll be some best practices on how to use Learning Upgrade in your program, whether that be blended, which is primarily the use case in adult ed, but we also have some other interesting models that we've developed with NGOs around the world providing learning support for resettlement agencies, new arrival programs, and a few others. And then we'll talk about getting started. So everybody in person and online will be able to get started with a free Learning Upgrade pilot. It's unlimited. You can use for as many students as you need. And then you'll also be able to learn about the Mobile Learning Fund through our partners, New Readers Press and Pro Literacy, that provides a grant if you don't have funds to continue. Free to start, affordable to grow. But for those that don't have resources to pay for tools like these, we do have a grant program that'll allow you to get it at no cost to your program. Today it's me here, Drew. Colleagues are at a different conference that they had to go to at the last second, but I am joined by my partner, Dan, at New Readers Press. And again, he'll be assisting everybody online. So for those that aren't familiar with Learning Upgrade, our focus really is just helping organizations deliver life-changing education. And that's going to be primarily for adults, but we also work in a lot of K-12 programs. And then lately, we've been supporting NGOs around the world. So about 7,000 or 8,000 Afghan refugees through the Aga Khan Development Network. We also have partnerships with UNHCR, where we're supporting organizations mostly in East Africa. But we work in Kakuma refugee camp. We've started working with ministries of education in Liberia and Gambia, but 80% of our work is still here in the States, again, primarily with adult education. So if you think of Learning Upgrade, it's really these three parts. Today, the primary focus will be on our app, and our goal here is to get that 4x learning. So how do we do it? We use songs, video, and games to teach, and that drives what we call binge learning. Really it is about time on task. They have time in your classroom, they have time in your program. Your goal, our goal, is to get them to have extra time practicing, learning, improving their listening, speaking, and comprehension of a brand new language in most cases. We have our own learning management system, so this is going to help you track and monitor student growth. And our goal here is to make things as simple and easy as possible. A lot of you have adopted a lot of technology over the last few years, so our job is to make things as easy as possible to where you can log in, get your student accounts created, and track and monitor their progress up to full proficiency. And then as I talked about, it's free to start, very affordable to grow. Most of our programs, without any increase in budget or time, are able to scale up and serve at least 10 times as many learners. And this is really important in our work with a lot of the libraries and literacy centers. Most of them have long waiting lists. We recently launched a program with Delaware Literacy, and that's one of their library system's major challenges is they have more students that are requiring assistance and tutoring than they have tutors and resources available. So we started using Learning Upgrade, and that allows every student on the waiting list to receive access to an app that will assess them at their starting point and then provide relevant ESL instruction to help them start accelerating their growth. Most importantly, when they do get paired with a tutor, the tutor has fantastic data, knows exactly where they need to work, and so it's really cutting down on the amount of time that tutors are having to spend learning where this student is starting. And then the final important thing there with those programs is they're also seeing a decrease in the turnover rate. So one big challenge, you have a huge waiting list, a tutor gets paired with a student, and then the student drops off or doesn't attend, and now they're being paired with another student, and so there's sometimes weeks lost there. Students that have proven that they're willing to spend time on Learning Upgrade are also students that spend a lot of time with tutors. So they're finding it works in a valuable way in both cases. So for those that haven't heard about us before, we just recently hit our 4 millionth student served. We're also X Prize winners, so this is something that's been kind of core at COABE, New Readers Press, and Adult Ed. And so that was a $7 million competition funded by Barbara Bush Foundation and the Dollar General Foundation. And so they set out to see if someone could create an app that would get measurable gains in literacy. They used CASAS as the assessment, and so all students were third grade or below, so a CASAS of 210 or below. And so they had that for the pre-test and post-test, and they had a 12,000 student field test in 4 major cities. And at the end of the competition, we were the grand prize winners. And so the reason for that is our app is easy to use. It's fun, so students were motivated, and no program, teacher, organization was able to interact with the students in this pilot. It was essentially you take, the assessment, and then they randomly assigned 5 apps that were the semifinalists out of an initial pool of 150. And then the app that had the highest gains in the post test was the winner. And so we were the grand prize winners for that. They had 2 groups. They had those that were learning English as a second language, and then those who had English as a first language. And we were top in both. It also meets federal standards. And so that's one question we usually get from students is, how does this differ from something like Duolingo or Babbel or Rosetta Stone? And so those are great apps. They're fantastic for, introductions to language acquisition, vocabulary, phrases. But when it comes to, meeting the federal standards, and especially for a lot of our students that are pursuing HSE or wanting to go all the way until they're taking, credit-bearing courses or credentials or job programs, vocational training, it's important that they have a curriculum that does meet the standards. I'll refer to it as the Learning Upgrade app, but it is available on the web as well. So it can be used in a browser, can be used iOS, so any Apple device, and then any Android device. And then although today we are covering our English ESL, we do have math, GED, and then our career readiness, we have a digital literacy course, financial literacy, work-life skills, and for those that are pursuing naturalization, we also have a citizenship course. And then our newest course, which is coming out in 2 months, will be health literacy. It's been one of our most requested, especially internationally, and we'll have a fantastic new health literacy course. So getting started, as we get talking about ESL and the Learning Upgrade app, I like to start with a story about what's possible. And so this is Studio, and we work with a lot of, resettlement agencies and refugee organizations. We're a San Diego-based company, and so we work with a lot of Somali refugees in San Diego, and then many new arrivals that come from south of the border. The challenge with refugees is, as we were talking earlier, is many come and they're non-literate in their first language, whereas most of our new arrivals from Central America, primarily from Mexico, almost all of them are fully literate, and in a lot of cases, grade level or maybe 1 grade level below in Spanish. So those ones tend to be a little bit more of an easy case for us because they get into the program. They're already reading in Spanish, and so the goal really is just getting them up to speed in English. With a lot of our refugees, it's a bigger challenge, being non-literate in their first language. And this is where Learning Upgrade really shines. We're talking about working with Haitian refugees earlier. We work with Palm Beach Adult Ed, where they work primarily with Haitian refugees. As I mentioned, we work with about 7,000 or 8,000 Afghan refugees. And programs use a lot of different digital tools. What a lot of them find is that it tends to work really well when you get to that CASAS 210 and above. There's a lot of options, but what do you do for the pre-literate students? And so even for programs that have adopted other tools that are fantastic, they will still use Learning Upgrade if they need to increase the number of students that are able to utilize their higher level tools. So even if you have a program that you love, you have a literacy program that you're already using, no problem at all. We are happy to work with the students that need to start from the very beginning. And that's what Studio did. It's also what her kids did. Her programs came to the organization we work with, UMI Learning Center, really needing anything, any kind of support to begin their English learning journey. They were having a very difficult time at school, and she was having a difficult time assisting with that. So with their program, they got everybody enrolled. And her story is unique because she spent a massive amount of time during the day, at night. Once her kids went to bed, she had 7 kids. And in an 18-month time period, went through every single Learning Upgrade course, which is a 250-hour investment in time, which sounds like a lot to me. And she said, you know what, over the course of a year, it's less than an hour a day. And so most people are spending that time on social media or doing other things. And this was her commitment to herself and to her kids. And what she was able to do in 18 months, alongside the work she was doing with instructors at UMI Learning Center, would have taken 5+ years in traditional, 1 grade level per year progress. And so that's Studio's story. And I have a little video here. I just want to make sure that we can hear the audio. Yeah, they didn't give me the option to select that when I started, so hopefully that's turned on for the online audience.
Hello, my name is Shadia Mahmoud. I teach ESL here at UMI Learning Center. What's very amazing about this program is it really helps them love to learn. It just makes it fun and just more enjoyable. I think it's a great addition to add into our program. We have seen tremendous improvements. They started from basically doing the alphabets to now where they're reading paragraphs and reading sentence and completed sentence. So that's pretty amazing.
And if you weren't able to hear the audio for the online group, let Dan know in the chat, and then I'll be able to hold the microphone closer to the speaker for the next one.
There is a question, so don't forget to repeat it.
Sure.
This person said, you mentioned CASAS. We use TABE Class E.
Mhm.
Does it align with that?
It does. So we have all of the alignments, and so we have those on the Learning Upgrade website as well as New Readers Press. We have alignment tables. So I'll go over our courses and the alignments in a little bit, but fantastic question. We do have alignments for that as well. So that was the UMI Learning Center instructor. Next thing we'll cover is going to go over, another challenging use case. So, we will talk about, our deployments in adult education, but in a lot of ways, those are really our easiest work just because they have, all of you. Fantastic credentialed instruction. They have, federal and state funds. They have schools. They have classrooms. They have connectivity. So with programs like UMI Learning Center, and then the one I'll talk about here with the Aga Khan Development Network, this is what's possible for students who start from the very beginning in programs that in some cases are providing education for the first time. So in this case, Focus Humanitarian Assistance provides disaster relief as their primary focus. And when the Taliban took back over, they reached out to us, and this also coincided with COVID travel restrictions. And they said, a lot of the things that we were doing to provide education support for refugees is no longer possible. We'd like to work with you on developing a new model where we can provide smartphones and connectivity on the ground in new countries for our refugees. But most importantly, we'd like them to have access to Learning Upgrade. Because what they were finding is they have fantastic vocational training, but none of the students were qualifying for it because they didn't have tutors and teachers on the ground that could prepare them to get ready. So We started out, we translated all of our stuff into Dari. We had a lot of fantastic Dari documentation and videos and onboarding instruction. And we wanted to recruit about 100 students. So we sent it to their WhatsApps. And before we knew it, they had shared it with everybody. And so we went from about a goal of 50 to 100 to having an 800 student pilot. For those of you that have ever launched a pilot, it is the only time you don't want that to be successful. When you're in Southern California, you have an NGO that's based in Canada, and we're trying to provide education support to a group of 1,000 that are in Turkey, about 600 or 700 that were in India. We have students in UAE, we have numbers in Syria, and then we're also trying to provide support for women and girls that are in Afghanistan when they're not supposed to be learning. We said, okay, well, this is the opportunity that we've been presented, we'll go for it. And so we developed a new model where we did all of our student credentials on WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is baked into our learning management system now. So if you have a student's WhatsApp number, email, phone number, we can do push notifications with their login credentials in their first language. And so that way their first touch point is one they're familiar with. So if they're non-literate or not able to read in their first language, that does require a little extra work on the side of the organization, where they'll have someone that speaks the student's first language give them a call and say, this is what you're looking for, this is your username, this is your password. But in most cases, if they can read in their first language, then they're able to get that notification. And in most cases, if they're using a smartphone, they'll be familiar with that interface and understand that as well. So that was a fantastic start. One of the other cool things that we did here is in the first 6 months, we went from 800 to 2,000 students, and they logged almost 350,000 lessons. They spent 44,000 hours in the app, but most importantly, every single one of our English courses is a full grade level of instruction, and you can see as a group they finished 12,000. So it was a massive growth there. They use Zephyr. I can show you how it aligns to CASAS here. But it was a really important moment for them in that pilot because it really showed them that, number one, you can deploy this anywhere and you can deploy it with students from any starting level. But more importantly, it really increased the number of students that were ready for their vocational training, which allows them to provide them with education support and employment, which is critical for refugees that have been displaced. So you can see what the numbers look like. We have Zephyr here on the left, which is the assessment they used in Turkey and India. Here we have CASAS on the right, so you can see how our courses align. So that question about TABE, we have these alignments for everything for TABE and others as well. And so I can show you those. But for this group, not unexpected. For our internal assessment and their internal assessment, we have 92% that are going to be pre-literate. So that's pre-A1 or CASAS 180 or below. This is a group of students who have no formal instruction in English, and that's perfect. Our English basic is starting out with first introduction to the alphabet, and so these students were able to get started there. But most importantly, you can see after 6 months of use of Learning Upgrade with that initial 800 refugee cohort, we have that number down to 16%. So from 92% to 16%. And big reason for that 16% is those are students who just didn't get a chance to use it. So in some cases, they were in areas that didn't have any connectivity. So even if the organization was providing a data plan, they weren't close enough to a tower to access it. And then in some other cases, they just had other life circumstances that they didn't have the time to put in the app, and that's absolutely no fault of theirs. But most importantly here, you can see the students that have gotten to this C1 or 235 or above, so proficient. So this is a student that's on that HSE track here in the States, and it's a student that's ready for the vocational training. This is a Canada-based organization we work with, so they actually use GED as well. And this really qualifies, 1/5 now. So we went from a very small, barely even 0.5%, all the way up to 21.5%. Most importantly, as this is only 6 months, so that next group just behind them, the B1 and B2, we're at another 20% that we were then able to move up to C1 and C2. So you can see how quickly this learning journey accelerates for students as they start progressing through the app. So English Basic up through 5. So I have one more video from a student that you'll be able to hear from, and then we can get into the details of the app and these courses and how they work.
Hi, my name is Habiba Jama. I'm here at Umi Learning Center, and I increase a lot of learning things in Learning Upgrade. Somehow, Learning Upgrade is the best thing that I should recommend for the people, for the moms outside. And I would recommend people that they should go, and it's just like easy things to do, and you can do whenever you have a free time. And you can do like when you are in the hospital waiting the doctor, or you can do when you are waiting the cashier at the Walmart or anywhere you are. Or if you're washing your clothes at the laundry, you can do it whenever you have a free time. It's easy and it's understandable. And somehow it will tell you all the vocabularies and something like new words that you don't understand and the word that you can't even pronounce. It will help you to pronounce and it will help you to spell right. And it's good. I like learning upgrade, and I also do every single day, even like 5 minutes. I like to do it. Before I used to play video game, but now my video game is learning upgrade. And I can read right now, and before I wasn't understanding the new words and pronunciation, but whenever it pronounced me, I like it. And also, I was weak with math. 1 plus 1 is kindergarten can do it, but I wasn't doing it. Right now, I can do up to 10. So that helped me a lot. I like it, and I should recommend a lot people for. So that's why I like it. And I am in math right now, like it's course 2, which is I finished course 1. I get silver certificate, which I'm proud of myself. And also I did English, which is, and now I'm doing English 2, which I finished it. I have 1 bronze certificate, and I am so proud of myself. I still recommend a lot.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you for letting us know in the online that you can hear the audio. I appreciate that. Okay, so last one we'll cover on the use case is in traditional adult ed. So we work with Sweetwater Adult Education, being San Diego-based company. For those that aren't familiar with California, Sweetwater is going to be the area that's in between San Diego and the Mexico border. So it's a large adult school, 4 campuses, 20 off-site locations, and they serve over 25,000 adult learners. So they were one of the first organizations that we worked with when we were launching a lot of the new app-based tools and learning tools. Before a lot of programs really utilized the computer lab setup, and we were pushing to allow students to access this on personal devices. That way they have access on the weekend, at night, let teachers and tutors and educators focus on what they do best in the classroom. And then we can provide learning upgrade as supplemental instruction, as extra practice, as homework in their time outside of the classroom. And so what we saw was incredible. And the first groups that we were working with there, we saw it was about an average of 24 hours to finish a full learning upgrade course. So I showed you we have basic up through 6. And so for each one of those courses, it takes about 25 hours to finish the entire thing. 60 lessons, 1 full grade level of academic content. The most important thing is when we allowed them to access it on their personal devices versus computer labs, their time on task went from 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the classroom, up to 4 hours. And so now they're just getting a lot more practice, a lot more time. And the crazy thing for us is, we're able to look at session log data. And so before it was always that classroom time. It'd be like 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock for some programs, 1 o'clock to 4 or 5 o'clock for others. And then all of a sudden we saw our server load was actually most active from about 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. And so that's, the time most of us are on our smartphones, whatever, we're using for personal use, but that was able to be a tool that the students were able to use. Most importantly, though, we saw the CASAS scores go up. So in our first 10-week pilot, for our first class, we saw an average of 7.8 points gained with a high of 16. And so we really saw their CASAS growth accelerate. And the big reason for that is, the obvious. It's just time on task. They're practicing a lot more. Oh, and so I have one more video, and you can hear from
My name is Lisa
Lisa here at
Sharman, and I
Sweetwater.
am an ESL.
Oh.
Hi, my name is Lisa Sharman, and I am an ESL instructor for Sweetwater Adult Education in Chula Vista, California. I teach at an elementary campus, parents of students that attend the elementary school. So after attending the Learning Upgrade workshop, I quickly went back to class and shared what this app that I really liked and enjoyed when I went to the in-service. I asked the students to, if they had a smartphone, to get their phone out and download the app from the store, and it's free, so they were very excited about that.
I am Abril Parra, and using learning upgrade. Sometimes I use it while wait for my doctor's appointment, my dentist appointment, and sometimes I using it in the evening when my child are working on his homework. And basically, I'm right now in the 51 exercise, and I really like it. I think it helps you a lot. For me, it helps me for the nouns because I was kind of having trouble with that, and I think it's very healthy.
I'm using in other place with the same bus. I'm learning, I'm studying the bus. For me, it's very, I don't need books, I don't need pencil, and only my phone, and I'm studying.
El programa de Learning Up es muy bueno para mí. Siento que estoy aprendiendo mucho. Me gusta porque es muy fácil de estudiar. Lo estudio como voy mucho al doctor con mi niño. Estudio mucho en el espacio de que él está con el doctor o cuando vengo en el bus. Vengo estudiando, es fácil de entrar, lo traigo en mi teléfono. La música y los sonidos son muy buenos. A mí me gusta mucho porque te motiva a seguir y estás, o sea, moviéndote, pero a la vez estás aprendiendo y escuchando, aprendiendo y moviéndote. O sea, es muy bueno.
Okay, so you've had a chance to hear from some instructors and a few students with some use cases, and so we can take a look at the app itself. So on our top track, this is our focus today, which is the English ESL. We have basic up through 6, so 7 full courses. 1 through 59 lessons on those are going to be self-paced, self-timed. 60, the final challenge, is the only timed component of each course, and that's a cumulative test of everything they've learned. When they finish courses, they'll earn a certificate. Now, these are going to be the courses based on their current level. So for students that have recent assessment, we do have the ability for programs or teachers to directly enroll students. Most of our programs, though, will utilize our in-app assessment. And so that means the first time the student logs in, an assessment will automatically pop up for them. They'll go through the questions. It'll assess the learner's current English level. Sometimes even if they've taken an assessment 1 or 2 months ago, it's still nice to get data for T0 today. From there, they automatically get enrolled in the appropriate course, and they begin their learning journey. So it's a very frictionless and seamless experience for the student. Once they have their credentials, they plug those in, take the assessment, and they instantly begin learning. And that's something we learned from the X Prize when you're doing a 12,000 student field test, is you want to make sure that students are able to get started quickly and easily. And we learned that, from a lot of app design outside of education. And that's something we feel a lot of designers really need to focus on, is if I recommend an app to all of you, you download it and it takes you 10 to 15 minutes to use it or get started, the likelihood that you'll ever come back to it is pretty much zero. So we need to treat students the same with their education experience. And it's something we do with the learning management system as well, is we feel like we don't want to waste teachers' times. Like, how many of you have ever used a new LMS or a new tool and the training was just too much? And you never really felt comfortable. You're constantly having to reach out for support. And so we spend a lot of our R&D making sure that the student experience is seamless, and then also on the teacher and educator side that you can log in, find what you need, and get students started very quickly. So here's a look at some of the things that make it unique as well. So every single one of these courses I mentioned has 60 lessons. One thing is we also record over 10,000 pieces of audio for every single one of these courses. So the way it works is every lesson starts out with spoken instruction. We also do that then in the form of a song. So we try to keep it bite-sized. Again, we're looking at how students spend time on their phones. We're not in a classroom anymore. So most of them are going to be on TikTok consuming short videos. They'll be on Instagram stories where they're taking in 5 to 10 second videos, quickly swiping between them. Attention spans are shorter. If they're on YouTube, many of them aren't even watching videos, they're doing YouTube shorts. And again, I think all of us are maybe a little bit guilty of that. Again, if I said, hey, I want you to find a recipe video, or maybe you're looking for a dinner you want to make, and the options are the 3-minute recipe video where they get right to the point, or the 30-minute one where they give you the backstory of every ingredient. Most of us don't always have time for that 30 or 45-minute video. It's like, just tell me what I need to know so I can make this. Students have a very similar attitude. You know, if they're in the classroom, fantastic. We have an hour dedicated where we can go through the long form. But when it's supplemental instruction, when they're doing this, as you heard from the students, you know, with their kids at the doctor's office, or once the kids are in bed at 8 o'clock, there are a lot of other things competing for their time. So we want to make sure we get to the point with our instruction, and that's why we also change it up and teach with music. We have a lot of music that teaches as well. After that instruction, then comes the practice questions, and that's the gamification where they get to show what they've learned. They have fantastic practice questions that they can go through, but that doesn't matter if they don't get instant feedback and remediation. So that's why we record over 10,000 pieces of audio for every course. If they do get a practice question incorrect, we don't just move them ahead. We don't just show them the odd answers in the back of the book. The app actually stops, explains what they got wrong, but more importantly, how can they answer it correctly next time? We can show formulas, arrows, drag and drop while the narrator walks them through it. And then most importantly, we can scale back the practice questions. So unlike print materials where somebody answers it incorrect and the next one is the next one, it doesn't matter what they just did on number 7, 8 is always 8. With individualized learning, when they get something incorrect, they can actually get a different problem that our app knows is going to be something that they know, so they can build up their skills and confidence, make that breakthrough, and then we can come back to the other material a little bit later. And so this is what one of the courses would look like. So English Upgrade 5, 1 through 60. And so you'll notice one thing that we do differently than some of the other programs is we show all of the courses here, and then on the lesson screen, we show all of the lessons. So that's another thing that we learned from a lot of other apps and a lot of app design. So if you go on something like Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime Video, if I recommend a show to you today and you go on and there was one season that was created 10 years ago, and you see that it was canceled, the likelihood you're going to invest your time is not very high. It's like, I don't want to get into a show and then realize that there's no payoff. I don't get to continue this journey with these characters that I've fallen in love with. Like, very few shows break that mold. Like Firefly was one of them. Most of the time, you're going to want to see that, hey, this is 10 seasons, 7 seasons. It got a very satisfying series finale. Okay, now I'm willing to invest my time. And so learning upgrade's very similar. So for students that are pre-literate, they're just starting their English journey, yes, I am on basic, but I can see exactly where full proficiency is for me. It's English Upgrade 6. That's where I need to go. And it's all available for me in one app. Same thing with the math, basic all the way up through algebra. For those that have HSE goals and dreams, hey, I'm right here on my English and math, but if I go through English and math, they also have that test prep for me. I have the career readiness skills courses. So it's really important for us to show all of this. It's one of those things we don't like to hide. The exact same thing for the course. So if you're starting English Upgrade 5, yes, I am on lesson 1, but if I go through this entire course, I'm able to see all of these lessons that I'm going to learn. And that's one thing that Duolingo learned is they used to hide all of their courses. They used to hide all of the lessons. Then in the last couple of years, they've started showing a portrait-based roadmap that's kind of like a journey map. And so it really engages the student to see where you've come, but more importantly, where you're going. Psychologically, that's really important. So as I mentioned, every single one of these courses is going to take about 25 hours to complete, but we still make them bite-sized. So every single one of these lessons, so if you're working on, lesson 2, main idea, students only going to need 10 to 20 minutes. So of course that can vary based on the student's starting level, and then also, kind of we all learn at our own pace. My son's one of the kids that likes to take as much time as possible doing every question on his homework. But that's okay. Because it is self-paced, they can take as much time as they need. There's a question in the chat? Okay, perfect.
Question one, does a school have to set up the pretest or does it come up automatically?
Good questions. I'll repeat it. So does the school have to set up the pretest or does it set itself up automatically? And so that's something that's automatic. And so we go over this. For those of you that would like to start with a free learning upgrade pilot, no problem. Every single student, when you get those onboarded, students can self-enroll or you can upload a spreadsheet. We have very easy onboarding. You can, have them start with the English placement and or math placement. So by default, that's on every student. They always have to start with a placement test. But for those of you that would like to have them start on a different course, you can override that. But yeah, by default, everybody starts with an English and or math placement test, and then they'll automatically get enrolled in the appropriate course. Our goal, again, is to make things as simple and to minimize the amount of time spent for our programs, and so they're able to get started from there.
Similar to the ones someone's a level 1 at CASAS, probably going to be a level 1 there.
Exactly. Yeah. So we also have a specific CASAS report. And so as students take our assessment and our English upgrade courses, we have a separate CASAS report that'll give you an exact match to where they are. And so that's from what we've worked on with Sweetwater. So we were able to see, okay, they have these hundreds of students that have gone through learning upgrade, and this is what their actual CASAS data shows. And so when they are at this level on learning upgrade, this is a projection on what their CASAS score would be. Yep. So we have yes, kind of roughly on the courses themselves, but then more precisely in our LMS, we actually have a CASAS report.
Another one, it just jumped. Can students jump between lessons if desired?
Good question. So can students jump between lessons? So by default, the app is set up that students need to work one lesson at a time. So if they're on lesson 1, they need to get 75% or better on the practice questions to be auto advanced to number 2. But in the app, you can always customize things. So we just call that lesson unlock. So a teacher can just toggle a switch that unlocks a lesson for one student or for their entire class or school, and students can then jump around.
What about, do any instructors use this on a smart board?
Yes. So we also have what's called, so do teachers use it on the smart board or whiteboard or projector? And so in the learning management system, we have what's called the teacher whiteboard. And the teacher whiteboard is kind of the unlocked teacher version of learning upgrade. So absolutely, they'll use the teacher whiteboard on smart boards where they can do whole class lessons. Students can come up and interact with the lesson on the laptop, or for those that have the live smart boards where they can press on the screen and things go live. And then, a lot of the times tutors will utilize that as well to see what their students are working on, where they don't want to go through it themselves. But hey, what is my student working on today? So yes, we have that. It's called the teacher whiteboard, and that can be utilized by anybody.
And is there a record of student hours, even dates that can be used for distance learning?
100%. And we're is there a record for student hours and dates? Yes, for distance learning and for others. So we're qualified in quite a few states for distance learning hours, and we have all of those reports for you. We have aggregate data for total time on task. We also have granular session data, so you have to show every session log, which course and lesson did they work on. You can customize the time with timestamps, so start and end date for any time parameters that you need. For programs that need to report on specific courses, you can filter out all of the math and career readiness if you just want to focus on English. So yes, any report that you would like or need to run in the learning management system probably already exists. And then if it doesn't exist, we've had programs that have specific needs that say, hey, this is a report we need, and we can usually get those turned around in a week or two, and then you'll have a custom report you can run in your dashboard. Audience member just asked, do the teachers run it, or do we run it on our end? And so those are run by you. So we have like probably 30 or 40 reports in the learning management system. You can click on the report type, and then you just click run, and it'll run on a default date. So most of our data looks at like the last 6 or 12 months, but then you can edit the time. So if you just want to say, hey, I want the last week, the last quarter, you can customize all of those reports. So it's run by the teacher or the director of a program. Our LMS also sets up account hierarchies, so teachers can see their class data. Coordinators or directors can see all of the teachers, but then we can also set up hierarchies where we have multiple sites. So if we have 4 schools in a district, or 50 to 100 schools in a county or a state, we can set things up and then provide read access and ownership and things like that with the different accounts, with parent accounts and child accounts. And yeah, and so for those, we giving you the overview on the LMS, but for those that would like to get started with the Learning Upgrade pilot, we can set up a quick Zoom training session, and that's where we go over things like specific use cases for your site, how to get the students onboarded, and then how to go over the reports. So here's a quick look at the instructions. So top right and bottom left are, students going through the instructions. So this is with the narrator and the songs. And so the narration is in English, but we do have subtitles. So some students like to have the subtitles on in English anyway, just to help them learn. They're hearing it and they're also reading it. They can also pull up full subtitles in Spanish or Arabic as well. So we find that that's useful to hear in English, but then being able to read in your first language as you're going through it. Bottom right, that's going to be a look at the practice question. And so this is one where they're dragging and dropping numbers into the formula. You'll see everything's green. And then when they click go, they get the instant visual cue in red what parts of their entry was incorrect. But more importantly, they'll get a formula on the right that'll walk them through everything as the narrator goes through it. So I have a very short video just so you can see what some of the music is like at the beginning of the songs, and then we'll get into some best practices.
1, 2, 3 branches. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 branches. Checks and balances. Separation. Executive, legislative, and judicial. There were 3 branches. It's official. Executive branch is led by the president, also known as commander-in-chief. Legislative branch, also known as Congress. Their job is to make the laws. Judicial branch is known as the courts. They interpret the meaning of the law. The 3 branches keep each other in check. Keeping the government balanced is best. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 branches. Checks and balances. Separation. Executive, legislative, and judicial. There were 3 branches. It's official. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 branches. Branch. Said 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 branches. Oh yeah.
It's our most popular video on YouTube right now. So it's the first one I saw. Yeah, it's one of those things that the music helps, keeps people active, keeps them engaged. So for the standards, yes, we have the PDF alignments for everything. So full lesson list. If you want to see how our lessons align for CCRS, we have all of our full granular CASAS alignments. And then for the one that asked about the TABE alignments, based on the courses, we do have that alignment table as well. So if you have specific ones that you need, my email is drew@learningupgrade.com, and I'll be sharing that in the Whova app. And then I have a business card here, and we'll be able to share those PDFs. All right, so now on expectations for the students, what we tend to find works best is if we can start with a minimum of 1 hour a week. And so we don't like to go more than that because it just sounds like too much for students. And so we like to say 1 hour a week. If we can get, 2 30-minute sessions or maybe 3 20-minute sessions, it's very accessible, very approachable, and students start there, and then naturally they gravitate towards the app and go up. So if we can get 1 hour a week in a blended setting, so that means they're in your school setting, your classroom setting, we start to see they have that 2x effect. So they're now covering 2 full grade levels in every year, 1 full in each 6-month period. As we get to 2 and 4 hours, we can see what we've been able to do with our AKDN work, with Sweetwater, and a bunch of others, where now they're going through sometimes 2, 3, and 4 grade levels of English instruction, which is a massive acceleration in their CASAS growth. And then we can see the full learning journey for the students here. So for the pre-literate that are starting out at that very beginning English basic, it's about 150 hours to get up to our English upgrade 5 or 6. And that's when they're ready for now our math courses. We do have TOEFL and IELTS for those that do need the language proficiency test prep. Most are going to be going into HSE, and so we get them ready for the math, which tends to be, we do have the GED reading prep as well, but it tends to be, they don't, once they go through all of our English, they're ready for that subtest. It really is the math. For most of our students that we work for HSE programs, it's the math, and so we have a fantastic math pathway for them. Most of them will do, math upgrade 5, 6, and then if they can get through our pre-algebra, which tends to be the content that they struggle with, they have no problem passing. And then from there, we have a 60-lesson digital literacy course that's aligned to ISTE, North Star, and the international DQ standards. So that gives them a good foundation in digital literacy training. They also get the work-life skills. So those are going to be soft skills like interviewing, putting together a career plan, putting together an education plan, things about punctuality. These are some of the cultural, working things that we do here in the States. So we developed this with one of our Haitian refugee organizations. They were having a really tough time getting some of their refugees placed in jobs. And so we had them go through work-life skills, and we also did an out-of-app training program. And it was really helpful for the students and then really helpful for the organization. And we've trained over 200 Haitian refugees who now have jobs, and they're one thing to say they have a job, it's another thing to say that they're still in the job 6, 9, 12 months later. And so that's the big focus of this organization and something that they found that course to be really successful at. And then the final one is financial literacy. And so this is critical for a lot of our students. They're in many cases looking for higher income pay. In some cases, it's their first job. So we want to make sure that they have a job, they're making good money, but then most importantly is they can avoid a lot of the predatory financial practices here in the States. So they learn about savings, budgeting, credit cards. And then we also have fantastic small business courses, which a lot of our students, when we ask them, we pull them, what is your goal? You're here in this ESL class or you're in this HSC class. What is it that you're looking for later? And in almost every case, they say they want to be in business for themselves. So it's really important we have that small business finance course for them. They can learn things about, bookkeeping, sales and marketing, taxation, differences between personal and business loans. So one app, and your students will have access to all of these courses. And then on the LMS side, again, we do provide additional training and support for this. Not something we can cover in a session here, but as I mentioned, really straightforward and easy. So for the teacher, top right, very simple tile-based classes. If you've used Google Classroom or really any modern LMS, it won't even take any training. You create classes. You can either upload students with a spreadsheet or generate a self-enrollment code, and the students will get started. They'll take their assessment and they'll begin learning. And then you can utilize our one-click dashboard where we have a lot of boilerplate reports, and then you can customize those reports if you need different things tracked. So the data and tracking is made easy. And we also have that CASAS alignment, so you can see exactly where your students are projected to score based on their learning upgrade activity. And then the last thing, so just some best practices before we head out, is this pilot, our goal is to have it be a 4-month program. So training starts today, just a general introduction of learning upgrade, what it is and how it works. If you fill out the form in person, or if you're online, we'll be able to share a link, but the last slide will have a QR code that you can scan and fill out. But we have our training. The focus after the pilot is we'll get those processed in the next week here. We'll create your account, and then we'll focus on getting the student accounts created. Then the student's journey begins. They'll take the assessment, get enrolled in the appropriate course, and then they'll begin their accelerated CASAS growth in the app. And then we'll work with you. We can track and monitor the student progress, and then at the end there, evaluate the student growth. So on the deployment models, most of you will be some form of blended. So you have the students coming into your program and learning with an instructor, and then they're utilizing your learning upgrade outside of that. What we find is that tends to open up a bunch of different options. And so we have adults going home and they have others in their community or others in their house that would like to use it as well. So we have no problem. We do a lot of 2-gen learning. So that's the family learning and community learning. We have some that are fully remote. And so that's, hey, we're not providing in-person support for some students. They're not able to make it. They're in remote areas. Maybe we have a super long waiting list and we'd like to provide learning upgrade to them. That works. We have the tutor-based, and so that's the one with libraries where they have students take learning upgrade and work on that and then meet with tutors to focus on things that they need additional support. And then learning circles is our most powerful. What we like to do there, even in all of these other deployment models, is we set up things like WhatsApp groups. They can share best practices. They can talk about what they're learning. And
Are they lifting weights?
I know that I'm a little scared. It might be. It might be. I just hope nothing blasts through the ceiling. And then what we do is we can also provide prompts. So if any of you would like coaching on WhatsApp learning circles or in-person learning circles, we do training for that as well. And this is the QR code. So again, free to start, affordable to grow. So for those that are in person, we have a paper form that you'll be able to fill out. For those that are not, if you're on a computer and you have your mobile phone next to you, you can just open up your camera app. And if you hover over the QR code, it should have a little pop-up that you can click on and it'll take you to our pilot page. Now, if you're not able to do that, no problem at all. In your preferred search, just type learning upgrade and you'll find our website. It's learningupgrade.com. And then you'll see a pilot request link in the top header. And just make sure to select COABE for your partner organization because we do longer and bigger pilots for those that attend these conferences. All right, so this is the end here. So 4X growth begins here. For almost every program we've worked with in the pilot period, for those that are able to get that minimum of 1 hour a week, we're seeing a minimum of 10 CASAS points growth. And so have them log in, take the assessment, start learning, and their CASAS growth will begin to accelerate quickly. So that's everything from me. You can see my email, drew@learningupgrade.com. Feel free to reach out with any comments or questions. Timeline's on the left, pretty straightforward. So we're here in March today, but conference is in April. So we'll get you started with the Learning Upgrade pilot at the end of the week for those that fill out the form or fill out the paper form. And then, if you want to meet with us, we have a happy hour tonight at 5:30. With New Readers Press, our partners. You can also come by, visit with me, visit with Dan, and visit with the team at the New Readers Press booth. So if you have any questions, we also have a lot of fantastic print materials with our partners at New Readers Press. So if you are looking for print materials in literally anything adult education, they will have a lot of demo copies that you can thumb through, take a look at, and ask questions about. For the students that are on Learning Upgrade, we can track and monitor their growth, show you how to use the learning management system. Summer is an evaluation period, and then fall we can talk about continuation options. So with that, end a little bit early. I know we're supposed to go to 9:10, but I know everybody wants to get a good seat in the big session coming up. And then for those of you that are online, you can get a little coffee break and get ready for that as well. But if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those. And if not, the forms are up here for those that didn't get it. And then again, for those of you that are in the virtual session, I can go back to the QR code here. You can scan that or go to learningupgrade.com and click on pilot request. So those are the languages that we have for the subtitles. But for documentation and onboarding, I think we're at 9 languages right now, and then we're constantly adding new ones. So I don't have all of them memorized, but I know we have English, Spanish, Arabic, Dari, Urdu, Polish, Russian, and so yeah, it's pretty much by request. If you have a group that needs a language translated for our onboarding and documentation, just let us know. Usually it's, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks turnaround, just because there's quite a few PDFs and then some voice work that needs to be done, things like that. But we tend to get those turned around pretty quickly, especially in Southern California. We can usually find translators and voice people pretty quickly, but some of them not so much. Okay. Yeah, we have a pretty large Ethiopian population in Los Angeles. So I'm sure I can reach out and try to find somebody. For those that are online, that was a question about getting the onboarding documentation translating into other languages. If you'd like to do that, if you see that your language is not supported in the LMS currently, just let me know and we can work on getting that done for you. Any questions in the Hoova app, Dan?
I think we've answered them all.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
like, is there a limit on the number of students participating in a pilot? I have 130 students, but not all of them would necessarily be actively involved. So.
Okay. Yeah, so that question was on the limit of pilot participants at your site, and there is no limit. So as many students as you would like to support. So we have some people reach out to us and they have a very specific use case. If I only need to support 5 students, that's no problem at all. And then we have others that reach out and say, I'd like to support 500 students. So the LMS is very flexible where you can support groups of any size. And so, yeah, to answer your question, there's no limits on the lower end or the higher end. That's it. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending in person, and then also for those that attended in Hoova, and enjoy the rest of your conference.
And they did say, make sure you leave the room laptop logged into Zoom.
Okay.
Don't log out. And if you have a pilot form that you filled out, I can be happy to take